If you've got some revenues and you are now working to scale your SaaS business, buckle up. You are in for the ride of a lifetime. Now, here's the thing though, only 4% of SaaS companies ever get to $1 million in ARR, and only 0.4% of companies get to 10 million of ARR. Having scaled multiple SaaS companies, in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 big lessons learned that I have learned the hard way. These are lessons that I really wish I knew when I was first starting out. And it is my hope, it is my intention that you watch these 5 lessons, you learn these principles, and you are able to apply them and get to that next stage of growth for your SaaS business. Intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Unstoppable. I'm TK, and on this channel, I help SaaS founders like you grow your SaaS businesses faster with an unstoppable strategy. Now, if you're new to this channel, welcome. I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So if you are new, be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon. That way you'll get notified every single time I drop an episode with the TK energy. Now, if you're already part of this community, if you're part of my SaaS go-to-market coaching program, my people, welcome back. It's really awesome to see you over here. I remember when we hit $1 million of ARR in my last company, ToutApp. We were a 6-person team. We were pioneering the sales engagement space, and it was incredible. I also remember when we hit 3 million ARR. I remember when we hit 6 million ARR. I remember when we exited the company to Marketo, and I joined the executive team, and that company was driving to $500 million in ARR. Through all of these inflection points, I learned a ton of lessons the hard way on how to scale and the things to watch out for as you are hitting these different inflection points of scaling. Also, since then, I've coached hundreds of founders in their own scaling journeys, and I've seen all the patterns of the common mistakes that happen the most often. So in this episode, I'm gonna walk you through the 5 principles that I've learned the hard way, and if you watch till the end, I'll even give you the bonus one that brings it all together. So if you're excited to dig in, go ahead and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Let's dig right into it. So principle number 1 in your scaling journey, and this is something that I struggled with in the beginning, and honestly, I still struggle with sometimes as I've started additional companies since my last company, is number 1, don't scale before you have a message market fit. This is one of the things that I find myself coaching founders around in my go-to-market program very often. A lot of times founders are aggressive, and that's normal. That's why we are successful. We are raring to go, we're raring to scale. And we're looking to turn on as many channels, get as many leads, get as many opportunities, get as many trials as fast as possible. And that's what we think is scaling. But the biggest thing that founders have to often realize is before you get to scaling, you first need to get to predictability. And before you get to predictability, you really need to make sure that you have message market fit. A lot of times founders ask me, what is message market fit? What does that look like? It's slightly different than product market fit. Message market fit is when you have a value proposition or a unique selling point, and every single time you say it in front of your ideal customers, from your ideal customer profile, heads start nodding and they start to understand, and they're like, oh my God, we totally have that problem, and they want to dig more and they want to learn more. And this could be happening in a one-to-one setting. This could be happening at an event. This could be happening on LinkedIn when you're posting organic content. It's that message market fit where anytime you're talking about the problem and the solution that you offer in a certain way, providing your unique selling point and your unique value proposition, heads start nodding in your ideal customer profile, in your ideal market. And that is what message market fit is. So before you jump into scaling, before you start hiring agencies and spending tens of thousands of dollars, the first thing you really want to validate is, what is my ideal customer profile? What is my message? And do I have message market fit? Once you have message market fit, then you should start to see that predictability. Once you start to see that predictability, then you can start investing in scaling. That's how those steps come. So one of the biggest lessons I learned, and I often see founders make, is before they hit message market fit, they try to start scaling. And almost always it ends in a huge disaster, wasted time, the wrong hires, the wrong agencies, and of course, fractional CMOs hired who can't get a real CMO job. All those terrible things happen. So that's lesson number one that I learned the hard way. Lesson number two is don't scale alone. So let's just say you get to this message market fit. Let's just say you get to that predictability where you're like, TK, I'm getting a certain steady set of leads, I'm getting to opportunities, and I'm winning customers. Now I just want more. That's when scaling really starts to come in. This could happen at a few 100,000 in ARR. This could happen at 1 million ARR. Some people have gotten to 3 million ARR, but they're still coming just from referrals of their own network and now need to scale. So this can happen at different inflection points, but you'll be able to gauge if you have message market fit. We've also seen cases where folks have gotten to 1 million ARR, but half of them were one-time AppSumo deals, so they're not really recurring revenue. And then the rest of the 500K is a whole bunch of different type of ICPs, and they join for different reasons, and the product does a bunch of different things, but they still don't have message market fit. So in that case, we first work to really get to message market fit and then scale from there. There's no time limit around this. This can go really quickly or it can take longer depending on your market dynamics and your competitive dynamics. But the key is you get to that message market fit. Once you get to message market fit, then you can start scaling. And the biggest mistake I see, and I've faced this as well, is you try to scale alone. Really, there's a lot here. So let me break it down. There's different ways founders try to scale alone. The first way they try to scale alone is they think that what got them to this point, maybe through their existing network or referrals or this one marketing channel, is the thing that's going to get them to that next stage of growth. So they're like, we just need to keep doing this and we're going to get to the next stage of growth. Sometimes that is true. Most of the times it's not. That's one form of scaling alone, thinking that the current go-to-market machine, the current go-to-market strategy is going to get to that scaling stage. Another way they try to do it alone is they say, look, we're doing well in this channel. Let's just say it's LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, whatever it is, or outbound. Now we're going to turn on 3 more channels and we're going to go scale this out. We have message market fit. We're going to turn on these additional channels. Well, the thing is, each channel requires mastery. Each channel is subtly different. Not all channels will have your ideal customer profile. So this is one of the things I work with founders on to figure out what is the ideal customer profile? What is the message? Do we have message market fit? And then what are the channels we use to scale? But one of the key questions that I always ask when I'm coaching founders is it's not about what do you need to do for each of those channels. It's more about who do you need to hire, or who do you need to contract, or who do you need to partner with, or who do you need to bring on board so that you're effective in those additional channels. So the common mistake here, and I've actually suffered from this more than I am willing to admit, is don't scale alone. As you enter into the scale stage, as you're turning on a proper scalable go-to-market machine, as you're turning on more channels with the message market fit that you have, the big thing you want to figure out is, what does the team look like? Who do I need on the team? And at different stages, there can be different points of budget. You may be bootstrapped, so you don't have as much capital to invest for growth. You may be venture backed, so you can't spend the money fast enough. Or you may be right between fundraises and you haven't quite hit the next stage, so you can't raise the next round, so you're tight for cash, but you still have to figure out a way to get to that stage so you can raise the next round or else you die. So there's always these nuances. And so there's different ways to staff this. There's different ways to accomplish this, but you can't do it alone. You can't do it yourself. So you really want to figure out, who do I need and how do I ensure that I reduce the execution risk as I start to scale? And how do I ensure that we're doing this the right way? Now, lesson number 3 that I learned, and I alluded to this already, is don't wait for budget. Don't wait for budget. Sounds obvious, but sometimes, one of the biggest things I've learned as a coach, this is my 6th year coaching, so I've been at this long enough. It's been 20 years in the SaaS industry. One of the things that I found is a lot of the obvious, simple stuff are the stuff that's going on in people's heads, and they're afraid to talk about it because they think they'll appear dumb. I find that a lot of times I'm talking about certain obvious things, but because I'm willing to talk about it, people find a lot of value from it. Don't wait for budget is something that everyone struggles with. Unless you are just coming off of a fresh round of venture capital. Let's just say you raised $10 million. Well, now, budget is not really a thing. So you're like, okay, let's go burn and let's go increase the burn. Let's go hire people. So budget is no longer a scary thing, but you are a little bit in the minority. What is in the majority are people that are in between rounds and they need to hit certain milestones, which means that sometimes they have to increase the burn to be able to even raise the next round. Other times you are bootstrapped. You are maybe taking profits and you're like, look, I'm living a pretty good life. I'm profitable. I want to scale, but I don't want to reduce my profit distributions. Or maybe you're a little bit earlier in the journey. You're like, okay, I'm not even taking any profits. I'm barely getting by. Where do I find the budget to scale? But I do have message market fit. In this case, budget is really scary and it's really uncomfortable. And the biggest lesson that I've learned is you can't wait for budget. What that means is Everyone thinks there's going to be this magical point where you're flush with cash and then you're going to like start growing and spending. But the reality is most of the time, most of the companies, most of the cases that I've been through, you almost have to hire a little bit forward. You have to take a little bit of a leap of faith. You have to be able to willing to spend some money that almost feels a little uncomfortable so you can start to get the scale machine going, which then unlocks more growth, more cash, and even the next round of funding. And until you do that, until you spend that budget, you find it because you have to cut elsewhere, you take less profits, or you just increase your burn to an uncomfortable level just so you can ensure that you can raise the next round and get that growth going. Any one of those pieces are things you have to think about. You have to get a little uncomfortable. The biggest thing that I've learned is budget for growth is something that is a very touchy topic with founders. Whether it's impacting their burn or it's impacting their profit distributions, it's always touchy. But the truth is your business is an appreciating asset. So you're never wasting money if you're spending it in the right way. So if you're hiring the right people and you're spending and investing in the right go-to-market machine, the dollar that you spend will come back to you. And so it's never a wasted expense. So budget, you have to think about it as a form of investment. And sometimes you have to do it a little bit earlier than it is comfortable. Otherwise, you'll never hit that inflection point of scale. Number 3 lesson learned is don't wait for budget, meaning don't wait till it's totally comfortable because that time may never come. Figure out a prudent way to spend a little bit more and invest in the right things that you know are going to be accretive to the business, whether it's people, whether it's systems, whether it's processes, whether it's help on how to think through this, any one of those things, spend even if it's a little uncomfortable because that's going to force you to figure out a way to get to that next stage of growth. All right, now I have 2 more and I have a bonus one for you before I jump into those. And not all of these are don'ts. I have some do's for you also. Before I jump into those, let me just pause here for a second. Are you starting to see the power in this? The power in this is as you're starting to think about scaling, it's not just overnight, oh my God, we're crushing it, because most of those don't last very long. They're what we call one-hit wonders. It's like an AppSumo deal. You run the AppSumo, you get a bunch of users, you get a bunch of money, and then nothing. Or you get on Product Hunt and you get hunted and a huge spike, whole bunch of randos sign up, and then nothing. Scale really comes when you are building up the machine. You get to message market fit, and then you start to get to predictability. And then you start to invest in certain things that get that message to your market in a more scalable way. So you start to get more and more and more. And they're predictable ways to turn the knobs so you can introduce more scale. And then you can do even more experimental things that you can actually 10x your yield. That's how scale happens. And because of this, you want to make sure that you don't start to scale too early. And you want to make sure that you don't scale alone. So you're starting to see the power in these hard learned lessons and these principles. Can I just get a yes in the comments below? And also smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. Also means a lot to us. Also, if you're in this stage where you've got a product, you've got some revenues, and you're looking to get to message market fit, or you're looking to get to predictability, or you're looking to get to that next stage of growth and start scaling, and you want help in how to figure all these pieces out, this is how I help inside my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. You don't have to go anywhere right now. I'll link to it below, and I'll also tell you more about it at the end of this episode. But right now, let's go to principle number 4, because I want you to understand all these pieces so you understand the full chessboard. All right, principle number 4, and I promised you some do's instead of a whole bunch of don'ts, and it's in green now, is do figure out what great looks like before you hire. At some point, you are gonna be hiring. You don't wanna go at it alone. When you're thinking about, all right, I'm gonna hire, I can't go at scale alone, I've got message market fit, and I really wanna make sure that, budget may be a little scary, but you're gonna do it. You allocated a certain number of funds, like I'm gonna invest in this, and I know I'm gonna 2x this money. I'm gonna put in this money, and then it's gonna 2x for the business, and that's gonna 10x the value of the business, and that way I can get more profits, or a better exit value, or even a better valuation for my next round. Any one of those things are starting to come together. At that point, you're gonna say, cool, who do I need? Who do I need on the team so I can actually scale effectively? In my go-to-market program, when I'm coaching founders, and I've had founders that have hit $1 million, $3 million, they're going to 10 million, they've started hiring. And one of the things I do in the coaching sessions is I prep them on exactly what great looks like and who they need to hire. The biggest thing that I found is a lot of times when founders are, say, hiring a VP of marketing or a VP of sales or a head of marketing or a head of sales or a VP of engineering or whatever the title may be, as you start to think about scaling, they jump into the recruiting part, or they're maybe talking to candidates that reached out to them, but they haven't done the step where they've started to figure out what does great look like. I was on a call with a SaaS founder who started with me when they were almost pre-revenue or a little bit of revenue. Then they hit 1 million. Now they're at past 3 million and they're still with me. I still coach them. And one of the things we were talking about was they were looking for a great sales leader. And up until this point, the founder was still owning a lot of the sales. She had hired some salespeople, but she really needed a great sales leader. One of the things we were talking through were some of the candidates she was looking at, and we were looking at their LinkedIn profiles. And it occurred to me, I asked her like, hey, do you know what a great VP of sales looks like? And she was a little puzzled and I was kind of smiling. I'm like, no, seriously, like you want to hire a VP of sales, do you have the archetype in your mind? Like, have you met one person that you know, whether you can hire them or not, is a great VP of sales? This is a very successful founder. She's incredible. And she was like, you know what? I actually don't. And I'm like, great, let's look at some LinkedIn profiles of what great VPs of sales looks like. And that's the principle that I learned and I was taught by my mentors. Do figure out what great looks like before you hire for a role. And this can be true if you're hiring VPs. This can be true if you're hiring heads. This can be true if you're hiring individual contributors. And it can also be true if you're hiring, say, an agency or a contractor. In any of these cases, you really want to first understand what does great look like. A lot of times people direct message me or put in the comments or email me and it's like, oh my God, TK, which fractional CMO hurt you? Like, why do you always rail on them on this channel? And the thing is, it goes against this principle. If a fractional CMO has literally never been a CMO, then they're not great and they're not even close to great. And you're hiring them for a job they have never done. And so that's really important for you to understand, not even just on the fractional piece, but just in general. Before you hire someone, know 3 to 5 people that are already great at that role. Even if it means you go through your network, even if it means you're never going to be able to hire them, they may be out of your budget or they've retired already. You want to talk to them. You want to look at their LinkedIn profile because they'll help you understand what great looks like. And here's a pro tip. Here's a little extra tip that I learned. It was from a guy named Raj Datta. He's a CEO, amazing CEO. And I think he's with Founder Collective now. And he was the CEO of Bloomreach. This is what I was hiring my VP of sales and my VP of marketing. He's like, listen, you're probably going to hire recruiters and that's cool. But before you do that, find 3 great VPs of sales, 3 great VPs of marketing that you know are great. And I was like, okay, cool. That makes a ton of sense. He's like, but no, also ask them who they think is great. And one of those people may be looking for their next job. That was one of the ways I hired my VP of customer success. And that's how that came together. So incredible advice. So know what great looks like as you start to thinking about scaling, as you start to think about hiring. This is one of the things I work with founders on all the time as they get to that point where they're scaling and hiring so that we can really make sure that they are hiring great candidates and they know what great looks like so they can evaluate these people in a really effective way. All right, number five, we're moving right along. Number 5 is do inspect the results after you hire. The greatest thing that founders struggle with is giving up control. And the reason I can tell you this with conviction is this is my 6th year coaching and I've coached hundreds of founders and I am a founder. I struggle with it and the founders that I coach also have struggled with it. Every founder fears giving up control. It's their baby and they're like bringing in these people to start taking over these functions. One of the things that I always encourage founders to think about is, hey, you may be hiring this great VP or this great head of, but you should also determine how are you going to inspect their work. I'm not saying micromanage their work. You hire them for a reason, so you shouldn't be doing their work. You should still figure out what are the key metrics that I'm going to look at with this person to figure out if they're doing a good job or not. What is the 30, 60, 90-day plan that I'm going to ask of them to figure out if they know what they're going to do and I can hold them accountable to it. And also, what are the SOPs? Before you hire that head of marketing, you are probably doing some marketing. How can you create a set of standard operating procedures that outline exactly what you are doing that you know yields results that you can hand to them and then you can look at together so that they can tether themselves to that standard operating procedure and build off of that. It's never a case where you just hire someone and give the keys and move on. That's nerve-wracking and also not a good idea. You also don't want to be on their back micromanaging everything because then why did you hire them? So what you want to do is find some even middle ground. And the best way I find how is to agree on metrics that you both are going to look at and establish the standard operating procedures that you know already works well that they can build on. These 2 things builds trust, enables them to be successful in your organization, and also makes sure that you're inspecting their work so that you can double check and be sure that you actually made the right hire. Because the reality is some of the hires work out, some don't, and you're not going to know and you don't want to wait too late. So you want to catch it early if it's a bad hire. Obviously, you do a lot to make sure you make the right hire as early as possible, but you also want to have the double check. You want to keep inspecting. So those are the 5, and I did promise you a bonus one. If you're still watching, kudos to you. Hopefully you're getting value. The bonus one that I'll give you is do keep owning founder-led GTM. I was watching this podcast recently. It was with Keith Raboy. He said something that struck me. He said, the best CEOs and founders are also the best CMOs for their company. And that's really true. If you actually look at the most successful companies, if you look at Salesforce, and that's in B2B, they're incredible. Mark Benioff is actually their chief marketing officer. In fact, there's a running joke from what I've heard, the CMO of Salesforce is actually called the chief Mark officer. They're like leverage for Mark, and Mark is really the best CMO for that business. And he's also the best CEO. If you think about Apple on the consumer side, Steve Jobs was really the greatest marketer. He was the one up on stage that was actually delivering the product pitches and the releases. Remember those? And maybe you're too young to remember those, but you were so excited when he came on. He was owning go-to-market. So the bonus one I have for you is, even as you're scaling and as you're building out your leadership team, don't let go of being founder-led GTM. The founder-led go-to-market gives you your competitive edge all the way to 10 million in ARR and beyond. It allows you to understand what's working in the market, what's not, what your customers really want, and what the next curve looks like. It's gonna come to a point where you hit 10 million in ARR, and you have a full leadership team, and you're scaling, and marketing is owning the number in terms of pipeline, sales is hitting the number in terms of revenues, customer success and support and engineering, they're all doing the things. Well, at that point, what you're gonna be figuring out is, okay, we're at 10 million. In order to get to 50 million, what do we need to do? What are the trends in the market that are happening? What are the disruptions? Is there a YC startup that's coming for us now? And also, what are we gonna do with AI? So you start to ask these higher level questions. That's what you get to do when you get to scale and build out this leadership team. At that point, you're still owning go-to-market. Maybe not the go-to-market of today, as in what email do you send out to convert more leads to opportunities, but the email of tomorrow, as in what's the press release, what do you announce on stage, what's the second product you release. All those pieces start to come together, so you never wanna let go of the founder-led go-to-market. And for those of you that are watching that are like, oh my God, it would be a dream to get to that point, and maybe you're still in this stage where you're trying to get a message market fit, well, the principle applies even more, because you really wanna own founder-led go-to-market in the early stages. No one else can do it. You have to be the one that figures that piece out. But remember, it's not forever. Once you hit that message market fit, where you say that message and heads start nodding for that ICP, well, then you're able to scale. You're able to bring on the key people and say, this is the messaging that works. This is the market and the ICP that works. This is the one channel that's working. I want you to scale this out. I want you to own this channel and this channel. And that's how all those pieces start to come together. All right, so let's recap, and then we'll talk next steps. As you're scaling, here are the hard-earned lessons that I learned the hard way, and hopefully you can avoid making these mistakes and you can learn from them before you even scale. Number one, don't scale before you hit message market fit. We talked about that. Message market fit is super important. Heads start nodding, and you want to get to that. Number two, don't scale alone. Once you get to message market fit, then you get to predictability, then you can start scaling. And as you're starting to look at scaling, don't do it alone. Figure out, who do you need? At that stage, it's less about what do I need to do, it's more about who do I need on the team. And at that point, you may have varying levels of budget. So it may be someone that is a contractor. It may be someone that's a consultant. It may be someone that is an agency. You can figure that out. Number three, don't wait for budget. It is always going to be uncomfortable. Look, if you just raised 15 million bucks and now you're scaling, awesome, I'm super proud for you. Budget should not be an issue. But for the rest of you, which is probably 90%, where you're in between rounds and you really need to figure out how to get to that next stage so you can raise that next round, or you're bootstrapped and you're like, look, we only have so much, you have to find the budget. You have to think about it less about an expense and more about an investment. You spend $1, you get $2 back, but not just that, because you got $2 back, because you have your ARR that's higher, your enterprise value rises, whether it's for the exit value, whether it's for profits down the line, or for your next valuation. In either way, it's an investment. So it's gonna be uncomfortable, but find the budget. Number four, do figure out what great looks like before you start hiring. So figure out, whatever roles you're hiring for, figure out what great looks like. Evaluate them, learn about those people, look at their LinkedIn profiles. This is what I do when I'm working with founders as they're scaling. So figure out what great looks like, and then figure out who you're going to hire for each of your roles as you start to scale. Number five, do inspect the results after you hire. It doesn't mean you have to just let go of the keys. It also doesn't mean you should micromanage. So find that balance. The best way to do this is to establish standard operating procedures and checklists on what's already working so you can hand it to them. Agree on metrics and agree on 30, 60, 90-day plans so you can stay aligned and you can inspect their results and coach them along the way. So do inspect the results. And the bonus one I gave you is do keep owning founder-led go-to-market. You must own founder-led go-to-market when you are driving to message market fit. But even as you're scaling, don't let go of it, because there are going to be twists and turns on the road to 10 million, to 20 million, to 50 million, to 100 million, to 450 million, to 500 million, to a billion. There are going to be twists and turns in the road. It's almost always going to be revisiting your message and market. Whether it's for a new product or for your core product that's getting disrupted, you have to keep your pulse on that. So don't ever let go of the founder-led go-to-market. So now you know the lessons that I've learned as I've scaled my own companies. As I'm scaling my own companies right now, and as I've coached hundreds of founders, SaaS founders that are scaling their businesses. Now, what you may not know is, TK, how do I get to message market fit? How do I know if it's message market fit? I may have message market fit, but how do I actually get to predictability? Or you're getting some predictability, but the numbers aren't quite there for your growth goals. So how do I actually start to scale? Who do I need on my team? How do I know if they're great or not? And how do I make sure that I'm inspecting these people in the right way? How do I drive alignment around these people? Or how do I even get the scalable go-to-market machine going? So for all these questions, for founders that are scaling, for founders that are looking to get to message market fit, for founders that are looking to build that scalable go-to-market machine, this is why I created my SaaS go-to-market coaching program. Inside of this program, I work with you to figure out where you are, where you need to be, and what you need to do to get to that next stage of growth. The way I do this inside of the program, I follow 3 core pillars. Pillar number 1, we really validate your ideal customer profile. If you already have message market fit, then this part is really easy. If you don't have message market fit yet, this is the part where we really look at what are the different ICPs that you can go after and which one is the best one. Once you have the right ICP, then we build out your message. I call this the manifesto. Your manifesto is your positioning, it's your messaging. It's what you say in front of your ICP to get heads nodding, to turn them into leads, to opportunities, and to revenues. Once you have these 2 pieces, then you have a proper go-to-market strategy. And I've done this in a way where you can do 3-week sprints to get to message market fit as fast as possible, or to validate message market fit as fast as possible. Once you have these 2 pieces, then comes the Broadway show. The Broadway show is a consistent set of sales and marketing activities that you and your team and whoever else you bring on can run to bring your message to your ICP on a consistent basis that generates leads, revenues, and happy customers. It's an incredible program. It's my 6th year running this program. At this point, I've got founders that are in the program that are way more successful than some of the coaches that are out there in SaaS, which is incredible. It's truly an honor and a privilege to be able to run this program for this long and to do what I do. So if you'd like to work together inside of the go-to-market program, if you'd like to work with me to scale your SaaS business, then all you have to do is just go to tkkader.com/GTM. tkkader.com/GTM. On that page, you'll get all of the details. Now, it's been 6 years that I've been running this program. We've had so many success stories that we've published. What I know is the better the fit, the better the results. So if you'd like to work together, all we ask is just fill out a little survey and book a call with us. On the call, we'll figure out where you are in your business, where you want to get to, what's holding you back, and if it sounds like it's a fit, we're off to the races right away. So just follow the link below or just go to tkkader.com/GTM. Now, if you're still watching, which is incredible, I'm really glad. Hopefully you got some value. So be sure to hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It just loves it when you do that. Also, if you have a fellow founder, if you have a team member, if you're part of a WhatsApp group or a Slack group of other founders that would get value from this video, please share this with them. It'll just mean the world to us. Also, I drop an episode every single Sunday with actionable strategies and tactics from the trenches on how to grow your SaaS business faster. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon if you haven't already. That way you will get notified every single time I drop an episode. And lastly, remember, everyone needs a strategy for their life and their business. When you are with us, yours is going to be unstoppable. I'm TK, and I'll see you inside the SaaS Go-to-Market Coaching Program. Take care, everybody. Wow. Let's not put this in the bloopers. No, we're off to the races right away. Yeah, we're off to the races right away. All right, there we go.